Ever wondered why school never taught you how to build wealth? Why you know how to solve for X, but not how to handle a paycheck? It's not a coincidence. The system was built to make you obedient, not free. In this episode of Grow Leap Academy, we're exposing 7 money truths that keep people stuck, stressed, and broke. And more importantly, how to break out of that cycle starting today. This isn't theory. This is the real-world education you never got. Let's get into it.
You know that feeling? When you suddenly realize there are these massive parts of life that school just, well, it feels like they skipped right over them. Like, I bet most of us could still dredge up something about, I don't know, photosynthesis or maybe label a volcano diagram. But when it comes to money, something so fundamental, it often feels like we're just winging it. It's kind of wild, isn't it?
It really is. All those years sitting in classrooms and yet navigating personal finance can feel like you've been thrown into a game without knowing any of the rules.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put it.
And that feeling, that sense of, why wasn't I taught this? It's incredibly common. We hear that a lot.
Right.
And, if you look back at why mass education systems were originally set up, it was largely about preparing people for the workforce to fit into the economic machine, so to speak.
Okay, so less about making everyone financially savvy and more about creating reliable employees.
Well, yeah, historically speaking,
Yeah.
creating a stable workforce was a primary goal. And that kind of stability didn't necessarily depend on everyone understanding how to build independent wealth. Sometimes it even relied on people not focusing too much on that.
Wow, okay. So it wasn't just an oversight. It might have been sort of the point. To focus us on being good workers rather than, say, potential entrepreneurs or investors.
It's a complex issue, but yes, the structure often prioritized creating dependable cogs in the economic wheel over fostering widespread financial independence. The curriculum reflected that.
Which leaves us, as adults, trying to navigate this incredibly complex, money-driven world. Kind of unprepared. Like you said, playing a game without the rule book.
Precisely. You're making huge decisions, mortgages, retirement savings, debt management, often based on incomplete information or, worse, assumptions you picked up along the way that might not even be right. It leads to a lot of stress.
Definitely. That feeling of being constantly behind or just treading water.
Exactly. And that's what this deep dive is all about today. We're not just scratching the surface. We're really digging into why these essential money principles seem to be missing from our standard education.
Right. And more importantly, what are those missing pieces? What are the key truths we need to understand?
That's the core mission here. We want to uncover 7 really crucial truths about money, principles that, frankly, should be taught, but often aren't. These are the insights that can fundamentally shift your perspective and, hopefully, your financial trajectory.
So this isn't just about budgeting tips, is it? It sounds like it's about a deeper mindset shift.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the underlying game, reprogramming some old beliefs, and realizing you have more agency than you might think.
Okay, I'm ready. Where do we start? Maybe with those beliefs we pick up without even realizing it.
Perfect place to start. Because so many of our attitudes towards money are formed really early on, absorbed from our parents, our culture. These money myths can really hold us back.
All right, myth number 1. I bet everyone knows this one. Money doesn't grow on trees. Usually heard when you asked for that toy, right?
Exactly. It comes from a good place, usually teaching the value of work, that resources aren't infinite. But the downside is it can deeply embed this idea of scarcity.
Scarcity. Oh, like there's never enough, and you have to cling tightly to what you have.
Precisely. It wires you to focus on not losing money rather than on creating more value. It fosters a fear of spending, a fear of lack.
So what's the counter truth? What should we be focusing on instead?
The flip side is that wealth generation isn't just about pinching pennies. It's fundamentally about creating value, increasing income streams, building assets that grow. Wealthy individuals focus their energy there on expansion, not just preservation.
So saving is important, but it's only part of the equation.
Exactly. If you only focus on saving, you might get really good at managing a small pot, but you'll probably never learn the skills to make that pot significantly bigger.
That makes sense. It's a shift from defense to offense, financially speaking. Okay, myth number 2. Rich people are greedy. This one feels kind of insidious.
It is, and it's everywhere. Movies, books, casual conversation. It creates this subconscious link. Becoming wealthy means becoming a bad person.
Which then creates this internal conflict, right? Like, you want success, but you're afraid of what it might mean about your character.
You nailed it. It's powerful self-sabotage. Every time you get close to a financial breakthrough, this little voice might whisper, uh-oh, am I becoming one of them?
So what's the healthier way to think about it?
The truth is, money tends to amplify who you already are. If you're a generous person, more money gives you the capacity to be more generous. If you're ethical, you can have a bigger positive impact. Money itself isn't moral or immoral, it's a tool.
That's a huge reframe. Okay, myth 3. As long as the bills are paid, everything's fine. This one sounds so reasonable.
Yeah.
Almost responsible.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's often what our sources call survival thinking disguised as success. It sets the bar incredibly low.
Aiming just to get by, not to actually thrive.
Exactly. It normalizes struggle. It makes just covering expenses feel like the win, instead of asking, wait, could things be fundamentally better? Could I have actual financial peace?
And if that's your goal, just paying bills, your strategies will probably reflect that, right? You won't be looking for leverage or growth opportunities in the same way.
Precisely. Your whole approach shifts when you raise your expectations. You start thinking about ownership, about building things, not just covering costs. We have to remember, too, that our parents' views on money were often shaped by very different economic times.
Right. What worked for them or what they had to believe to get by might not serve us now.
Holding on to those outdated survival beliefs can keep you stuck, playing a game that isn't really designed for your freedom. The cost isn't just missing wealth, it's staying trapped.
Okay, so we've got these inherited myths. Now, let's talk about the system itself. How does school actually train us in ways that might not support wealth building?
This is fascinating, actually. If you think about the design of traditional schools, especially as they emerged during the Industrial Revolution, well, the goal was largely to create efficient, obedient workers for factories and industries.
Wow, okay, break that down. How does the classroom resemble a factory?
Think about it. Sitting in rows, bells signaling start and stop times, raising your hand for permission to speak or move, following instructions precisely, being rewarded for compliance.
Yeah, punishment for deviating or questioning too much.
Exactly. It's a structure that's really effective at training people to follow procedures and fit into a hierarchy essential skills for an employee. But it's not necessarily designed to cultivate, say, independent thinking, risk-taking, or spotting opportunities.
So it's training for employment, not necessarily for entrepreneurship or financial self-direction.
Largely, yes. And then there's the curriculum itself, or rather, what's missing from it.
Right, like we learned algebra, maybe some theoretical economics.
Uh-huh. But where were the lessons on how to actually negotiate a raise? Or the practical steps to start a small business? Or how investing really works for passive income?
Or even things like turning a skill you have into money, or dealing with the emotional roller coaster of financial uncertainty.
Exactly. Compound interest explained practically. Real estate strategies, how to build something from nothing. These are often completely absent. Instead, you get maybe some abstract supply and demand curves, or that old advice, just get a good job.
Which, as we know, isn't the guaranteed path it once might have seemed.
Not at all. And the consequence of all these missing pieces, you have millions of smart, capable people feeling stuck.
Stuck in jobs they don't love, living paycheck to paycheck.
Feeling like maybe they're the problem. I guess I'm just not good with money. When really they were never taught the rules of the game.
That's actually kind of reassuring in a way. It's not necessarily a personal failing.
It's really not. You were likely taught to be useful, to be a reliable part of the system. You weren't necessarily taught how to be financially free within or outside that system. But the good news is you can start learning those things now.
Okay, so let's get into those crucial missing pieces. What are these 7 money truths that should have been on the curriculum?
Right? These are fundamental principles. Grasping them can really start to shift things. Truth number 1, your time is not meant to be sold by the hour.
Ooh, okay. That hits right at the core of traditional employment.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you trade time directly for money, there's an inherent cap on your income, right? There are only 24 hours in a day.
You can only work so much.
Exactly. Wealthy individuals understand this. They focus on creating scalable value. Things like building a business with systems, creating digital products, investing wisely, building a brand. Things that can generate income without requiring their direct time input for every dollar earned.
So it's about working smarter, building leverage, not just working harder or longer hours.
Precisely. Shift the focus from selling hours to creating value in systems.
Okay. Truth number 2. Saving alone won't make you rich. This challenges a really common piece of advice.
It does. And let's be clear, saving is absolutely essential. It's the foundation. But it's not the whole house.
Why not? If you save diligently for years.
Inflation. The money you save today will buy less tomorrow. Its purchasing power erodes over time. Saving alone, especially in a low-interest environment, means you're likely losing ground.
So what do the wealthy do instead, or in addition?
They invest. They put their money into assets that have the potential to grow faster than inflation. Things like stocks, real estate, businesses, maybe even alternative assets like crypto or collectibles. The key is getting your money working for you, not just sitting there. Money is most effective in motion.
Right. Making your money make more money.
Okay.
Truth number 3. Debt isn't evil, it's a tool. This one probably raises some eyebrows. We're usually told debt is bad, period.
And dumb debt absolutely is. Maxing out credit cards on depreciating assets or unnecessary luxuries. That's financial quicksand.
Okay, so what's smart debt?
Smart debt is when you borrow money strategically to acquire an asset that is likely to generate more income than the cost of the debt, or to grow in value significantly.
Like taking out a mortgage for a rental property where the rent covers the mortgage and then some.
Exactly. Or a business loan to invest in equipment or marketing that will demonstrably increase profits faster than you could with just cash flow.
Yeah.
It's about using leverage intelligently. The use of the debt is the key differentiator.
Got it. It's about the return on the borrowed money. Okay, truth number 4. Taxes are the largest expense of your life. Wow, that's a bold statement.
But for most people, over their entire lifetime, it's likely true. Think about income tax, sales tax, property tax, capital gains tax. It adds up to a staggering amount, often more than housing or anything else.
And we don't always think of it as one big cumulative expense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wealthy individuals understand this very well. They don't engage in illegal evasion, but they absolutely engage in strategic tax planning. They learn the tax code, which is complex, and utilize legal structures like corporations or trusts, deductions, and tax-advantaged investments to minimize their tax burden legally.
So they're playing the game according to the rules, but they actually know the rules, especially the ones that reward certain behaviors like investing or business creation.
Precisely. The tax system often incentivizes actions that stimulate the economy. Understanding that is key.
Okay. Truth number 5. School grades don't equal life success. This might ruffle some feathers for the straight-A students listening.
Well, grades primarily measure compliance, memorization, and performance within a very specific structured system. They show you're good at following instructions.
Which is valuable, but not the whole story for real-world success.
Right. Building wealth often requires skills that aren't measured well in school. Creativity, resilience in the face of failure, communication, negotiation, problem-solving, seeing opportunities others miss, having a vision.
Yeah, you hear about so many incredibly successful people who weren't necessarily top of their class. They were focused elsewhere.
Exactly. They were often already applying themselves in the real world, learning different kinds of lessons.
Okay, truth number 6. Multiple income streams are a must. This feels increasingly relevant today.
Absolutely critical. Relying on a single paycheck, even a high one, is inherently risky. What if that job disappears? What if the industry changes?
You're vulnerable.
Totally. Wealthy individuals intentionally build an income ecosystem. They have money coming in from various sources.
Right.
Maybe their main business, plus stock dividends, rental income, royalties from a book or invention, affiliate marketing, a side hustle. The sources diversify the risk. Even small streams add up and build momentum.
It provides a safety net and also accelerates growth. Okay, final one, truth number 7. Money is emotional before it's logical. This seems really important, but often ignored.
Hugely important, and yes, often overlooked. We like to think finance is all spreadsheets and logic. But our relationship with money is deeply tied to our emotions, our identity, our self-worth, our fears, our habits.
How does that play out?
Well, unresolved emotional stuff around money can lead to self-sabotage, like impulse spending when stressed, or being too terrified to invest even when it's logical, or hoarding money out of deep-seated fear. Your emotional money script dictates a lot of your behavior.
So understanding your own psychology around money is just as important as understanding compound interest.
Absolutely. You need to master both the inner game, the mindset and emotions, and the outer game, the strategies and tactics to be truly effective.
Wow. Those 7 truths, they really paint a different picture of the financial world than the one we typically get. It feels like a whole different operating system.
It really is. And that leads us to the next key area, how the wealthy actually think differently. Because it's not just about what they know, it's about their fundamental perspective.
Right, it's the mindset behind the actions. So what are some of those core differences in thinking?
Okay, mindset shift 1. The middle class often sees money as the goal. The ultimate aim is the bigger paycheck, the raise. The wealthy tend to see money as a tool.
A tool for what?
A tool to buy time, create choices, make an impact, build things. The focus shifts from how do I get more money to how can I use this money strategically to build the life I want. It changes every decision.
That's a fundamental difference in motivation. Okay, what's another shift?
Shift 2. Focus on earned income versus cash flowing assets. Most people focus on their job, trading time for money.
Like we talk about with selling hours.
Exactly. The wealthy focus on acquiring or building assets that generate income without necessarily requiring their direct time input. Stocks, businesses, real estate, intellectual property.
Owning the income source, not just being paid by it.
Precisely. Owning the system, not just being a part of it.
Okay. Mindset shift 3 relates to risk, which we touched on. Avoiding risk versus managing risk.
Yes. The common advice is play it safe. But playing it too safe can mean missing opportunities and stagnating. The wealthy approach is to understand risk, analyze it, calculate it, and then manage it strategically.
So they're not reckless, but they're willing to take calculated chances for potentially bigger rewards.
Right. They often fear missing out on growth or staying stuck more than they fear a calculated potential loss. Inaction is often seen as the biggest risk.
Interesting. Okay, shift 4. Spending loss versus spending in leverage. How does that work?
The typical view is to minimize spending across the board, see it as money gone. The wealthy see strategic spending as an investment.
Investing in what?
In things that will generate a greater return later. Education, better tools, efficient systems, hiring talented people. If spending $1 today is likely to bring back $5 later, it's leverage, not just a loss. Fear of stagnation drives this kind of investment spending.
So distinguishing between consumption spending and investment spending.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, final one. Mindset shift 5. More money, more comfort versus more money, more responsibility.
How so? Doesn't more money usually bring more comfort?
It can. But if that's the only association, it can create a ceiling. You reach a certain comfort level and stop pushing. The wealthy often associate increasing wealth with increasing responsibility.
Responsibility for what?
To manage it well, to grow it, protect it, maybe use it to help others, build a legacy. It shifts the perspective from consumption to stewardship.
So it's a completely different playbook, really. Focused on ownership, growth, leverage, long-term strategy.
Like a great summary. And the most powerful part is anyone can start adopting this playbook, this way of thinking right now, regardless of how much money they currently have. It starts with awareness.
Okay, so let's make this super practical. How does someone listening right now actually start rewiring their mindset? What are the first concrete steps?
Great question. Let's break it down into actionable steps. Step 1, do a money belief audit.
What does that involve?
Grab a notebook, seriously, and just reflect. What did you learn about money growing up? What messages did you get? How do you feel about wealthy people? What emotions come up when you spend money, when you receive it? Guilt, fear, scarcity, pride, confidence.
So just getting honest about your internal landscape around money.
Exactly. You need to understand your current programming, your inner script, before you can change it. Awareness is always the first step. Got to know where you are to figure out where you're going.
Makes sense. Okay, step 2.
Track your money every dollar. For the next 30 days, commit to meticulously tracking where every single dollar comes from and where it goes. Use an app, a spreadsheet, pen and paper, whatever works for you.
Why is this so crucial? It sounds kind of tedious.
Because it brings reality into sharp focus. You might think you know where your money goes, but tracking often reveals surprising patterns, leaks, areas where you're spending unconsciously. It moves you from autopilot to conscious control. Clarity builds confidence.
Okay, so audit your beliefs, track your spending. Step 3.
Learn one new financial skill. Don't try to learn everything at once that's overwhelming. Pick one specific skill you want to understand better in the next 30 days.
Like what, for example?
Could be anything practical. How to build a realistic budget. How compound interest actually works mathematically. How to open a basic brokerage account. How to set up a simple online income stream. How to build that initial emergency fund. Just pick one and dive deep.
So focus builds momentum.
Exactly. Small, tangible wins build confidence and make the next step easier.
Got it. Step 4.
Start your second stream. Take action, however small, to initiate a secondary income stream, even if it's just $10 in the first month.
Why is even a tiny amount important?
It's about proof of concept. It proves to yourself that you can make money outside your main job. That psychological shift is huge. Sell something, offer service, rent something out, create some content. Just start.
Break that dependency on the single paycheck, mentally and practically. Okay, step 5.
Surround yourself with a different conversation. Consciously seek out environments online or offline where people talk about wealth, ownership, and growth positively and constructively.
How do you do that?
Listen to podcasts like this one. Join online communities focused on financial independence. Follow people who share valuable insights. Read books that challenge your thinking. The conversations you're part of shape your reality. If everyone around you talks scarcity, it's hard to think abundance.
So curate your informational environment.
Absolutely. It exposes you to new possibilities and reinforces the mindset shifts we've been talking about.
Those are 5 really solid, actionable steps. It really drives home that you don't need a pile of cash to start. You need the right mindset and the willingness to take action.
Precisely. The thinking and the actions come first, and the results tend to follow.
This whole deep dive, it feels like it's been about money, but also about so much more than money.
You're absolutely right. Money, ultimately, is about options. It's about having the space to make choices, the peace of mind that comes from security, the power to shape your life, the freedom to pursue what matters to you. That's the real value.
And it's okay to acknowledge that changing these deep-seated beliefs and habits isn't always easy, right? There might be some bumps along the road.
Oh, for sure. It takes effort to rewire your brain and confront limitations. Be patient with yourself. It's okay if you feel frustrated about what you weren't taught or if you've made mistakes in the past. That's part of learning.
But the key is taking responsibility now.
Exactly. Once you're aware of how the game works, you can't really plead ignorance anymore. The choice becomes yours. Are you going to step up and play actively or stay on the sidelines?
And you don't need permission or perfect timing or a lottery win to start.
Not at all. Let this conversation, this deep dive, be that reset moment for you listening. That spark. You have more power, more potential, and probably more time than you realize, especially if you start now.
Take the leaps, start small, think big. That's the spirit. And remember, the wealth you're building isn't just financial. It's mental wealth, emotional wealth, generational wealth. It's about building a richer life in every sense.
This has been incredibly insightful. Thank you so much for breaking all this down.
My pleasure. It's crucial speak to talk about.
And for everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, this isn't an endpoint. It's really just the beginning of your journey towards greater financial understanding and empowerment.
That's right.
If you found value in what we discussed today, please do hit that follow button and maybe share this deep dive with someone else you know who could benefit from hearing these ideas.
Yeah, spread the knowledge.
We'll be back soon with more deep dives into fascinating topics. So thank you again for tuning in. Keep learning, keep growing.
Absolutely. Take care.
We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, the best way to support the podcast is to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Every bit of support helps us keep creating content that actually matters. See you in the next one.